My name is Deanne from 4GQ TV, and I'm super excited for being here with you all. Let me start with Vincent since he's over here in the top left corner. I'm sorry if I look to the right, my notes over here, and my camera's right here in front of me, so apologize ahead of time. Uh, so, Vincent, when you joined the project, what attracted you to this project?
Um, I think it was the boldness of its ambition to represent an African culture with an extremely high degree of authenticity, and at a level of execution that is commensurate with other top tier programs that you've seen on animation, right? Because as has been observed in other interviews and without throwing shade, oftentimes you see content that has brown skinned people and brown skinned people, other cultures, they're not represented very faithfully or even very well from an executional perspective. And so, because we were so fiercely insistent on having authentic capoeira, authentic designs of clothing and food and places and delivery of the inflection of the vocal performances, all those things really kind of speak to the integrity and the intention of Lion Forge and of Roy, the show creator, to really just not have this be another thing that's been westernized. So that was cool.
Hey, I agree with that, and that shows that you really want to remain true to the culture of authenticity of the story, as you pointed out. So, um, what do you hope to that the show attributes to the future of diverse animation?
I hope that we get to see more stories that are not necessarily been Hollywoodized, because it's great to see shows like Squid Game or other authentic kinds of content that are made to be authentic to what they are, but they're, as Brandon often will say, they're as specific as they are, they're also more universally relevant because of the commonality of our human experience. So I would just love to see more of the different flavors of the rainbow of humans on this blue marble in space being represented well, you know?
Understood. I agree with that. Let's say Brandon, since he's right here on my second square over here. Uh, no order of prioritization, by the way.
It's okay.
Um, so let me see. I'm just picking out a couple. I got a list of them. I just want to pick out some good ones.
Mhm.
Um, how do you hope NIU resonates with the audience with unfamiliar with African mythology?
Well, I mean, I can speak, as someone who was generally unfamiliar with African mythology. I mean, there were certain things I've heard over the years, from just studying global literature and global mythology, but I didn't know all the specific stuff in Nigeria or West Africa in general, or specifically to the Yoruba, tribes within, Nigeria. I mean, I feel that people will relate to everything they see because the hero's journey is the hero's journey. It goes back to Gilgamesh. And I feel that people are going to, connect to what Iyanu feels, what B feels, what Toye feels, what even Akun, who's going to be our megastar, what he feels, the giant panther, And yeah, I have no doubt that there's going to be a groundswell of support. Once folks give it a shot and take a look at it, I have no doubt they're going to immediately fall in love with it the same way that I fell in love with it as someone who is not from Nigeria, as someone who has never stepped foot, unfortunately, on the African motherland, homeland. I've not, and I plan to change that someday soon, but I feel that there's something in the story that automatically clicks with people. And, you know, and then within a week, folks are going to see for themselves. So that's what I think
Yeah.
is going to
I agree. And I would say that from looking at it, the animation looks top tier. And like I said, you're an accomplished writer, right? You toot your horn. And
Thank you.
what do you think is how do you go about the process of moving from the graphic novel and
hmm
adapting it to episodic animation kind of,
Yeah, I mean,
how's go ahead.
what you want to do is always find the emotional core or the emotional truth, or if you're an actor, you find what's the intent of the scene. You know, obviously you can't do what we call a one-to-one translation or
Right.
adaptation because it
Hmm.
just doesn't happen. I mean, the only thing I've ever seen close to that was sort of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I mean, they got close, but not even then they had to take some liberties,
Right.
right?
Right.
So the beautiful thing about the Iyanu, especially Volume One graphic novel, is that the pacing was very cinematic already. And that was the beauty of Roy and Godwin's, the creators of the graphic novel series. um, it was a testament to how they knew how to pace it. So I just had to pull out the emotional beats that get people connected. And like the thing is, it's called in screenwriting, it's called the willing suspension of disbelief. And you
Hmm.
need to set that up very, very early. And in the case of Iyanu, we had about 30 to 45 seconds to get people to like fall in love with it. So we had to find a couple of moments, and we did that. And I feel like based on thank God, based on the reactions we've heard from early viewers and so forth and so on, people have connected to it. So really, what you're trying to do is figure out the most important stuff to squeeze into the 22 minutes, because all you get
Right.
is 22 minutes for a half-hour show.
Right.
And in animation, every second counts, and I mean that figuratively and literally.
Right. And in other words, you got to make it feel like it's a long episode, even though it's short.
You don't want it to feel long. I mean, you want
Well, I mean,
people at
I
when
mean
it
a
fades
lot
to
of.
black. Right. I
Yeah.
know what you're getting at. You want enough to happen. But the
Yeah.
reality is when it fades to black or cuts to black, people are like, "Oh my God." So you want them to tune in next week
Right.
or
Right.
binge it straight
Yeah.
through, on
Right.
Max or wherever to show up.
Yeah, I think you got where I'm coming from. I want to feel like I haven't been sitting here a long time because a lot of it just feels immersive. In other words, maybe that's the
Hmm.
word I was looking for. So,
Yeah, yeah.
Sam, what's your favorite trait about Toy, the character you play, and how do you
Hmm.
channel that performance?
Um, Toye started out when we started voicing Toye. It was I already loved Toye because the tension in the relationship between Toye and his father. He's a bookworm, his father is a warrior. And it's so for me, it kind of mirrors the relationship I had early on when I was around that age with my dad, when I had the audacity to tell him that I wanted to do theater arts. I wanted to be an actor, and it was like, boy, what you say what? And I could relate so much with that. And as the show continued, as we went through the season, um I started seeing Toy started having these moments of humor and comedy. And I'm like, okay, this is my jam. I'm naturally a comedic person. I want to do comedy. I love to make people laugh. And when we started getting more of those, I don't know what kind of meeting they had behind my back, but I started seeing more funny moments coming. And I'm like, okay, these guys get me. And I enjoyed it more and more. And it looked like, because sometimes they would ask Roy, who is one of the creators of the show, they would ask him, "Hey, did you like that take?" And I'm hearing him laughing, and he's like, "Oh, that was so great." And I'm like, "Okay, okay, this is great." So he goes from this person who is vulnerable, who is brilliant, to becoming also to not just becoming, but it adds on, he evolves into being just more than that. He becomes a voice of wisdom, a voice of reason, but also a funny voice in the team. And I just totally all of them are funny. They have so many funny moments, but Toya is just brilliant and silly, and I love it. I love it so much.
Amazing. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully we get to celebrate the show later on. I appreciate your time and thank you for everything.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.